Soham Roy was an average man living an average life in a middle-floor apartment in Newtown. His philosophy was simple. What's in it for me? He rarely engaged with others unless he saw a benefit. It wasn't that Soham was unkind, he just prioritized himself above everything else. His wife Antara had accepted that if something wasn't right in front of Soham, he wouldn't bother with it. Their kids knew Dad would rather talk about electricity bills than help with homework. But life often surprises us. Soham was about to stumble upon something that would change him. One day, while walking through his apartment complex, he noticed a flyer on the notice board. It read, "Join us this Sunday for a community cleaning drive and sapling plantation. Free chai and samosas for volunteers." Soham's eyes lit up at the mention of free samosas. Finally, something worth my time, he thought. That Sunday, Soham showed up, ready to earn his snacks. He was greeted by a cheerful group of neighbors, all with gloves, trash bags, and saplings. They split into teams. Some picked up litter, others swept, and a few planted saplings. As Soham was sweeping, an elderly man with a twinkle in his eye tapped him on the shoulder. "Here for the samosas too?" he joked. Soham laughed. "They say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach." The man introduced himself as Mr. Banerjee, a retired local who had been organizing these drives for years out of his love for the environment. "But let me tell you a secret about those samosas," Banerjee said with a grin. "They're just a small reward for the real prize." Soham was curious. "What's the real prize?" Banerjee smiled and gestured around. "It's this, the feeling of being part of something bigger. The joy of doing good, not for rewards, but because it makes our world just a bit better." By the time they finished, the complex looked transformed. The air felt fresher, the paths were clean, and Soham felt something inside him shift. It wasn't just the chai and samosas. As Soham was leaving, Banerjee handed him a small sapling. "Plant this at home, Soham. And remember, you don't always need to ask, 'What's in it for me?' Sometimes the reward is something you can't see, but it's more valuable than you imagine." Soham took the sapling home and planted it on his balcony. As the days passed, he watered it daily and watched it grow. Each new leaf made him see the world differently. He started helping out more, not for rewards, but because it felt right. He even organized a charity drive at work, surprising his colleagues who had always seen him as stingy. One day, over chai with Mr. Banerjee, Soham raised something that had been bothering him. "Banerjee da, some people here make donations for saplings, but it feels like they expect special treatment in return. It's making others hesitant to participate." Banerjee nodded, serious but kind. "It's tricky when giving comes with strings attached. True giving isn't about what you might get back. It's about the joy of giving itself." "But how do we change that?" Soham asked. "It starts with us," Banerjee said. "When we give, we do it without expectations. We recognize and celebrate those who give selflessly. Over time, people will see that the real reward is in the act of giving." Soham thought for a moment and nodded. "You're right. It's up to us to set the example." From then on, Soham gave freely, his time, effort, or donations, without worrying about getting anything in return. He encouraged others to do the same, and gradually, the atmosphere in the community changed. People began to give for the joy of it, not for recognition. Those who had once given with expectations realized that true fulfillment came not from praise or privileges, but from the simple act of giving. The community grew stronger and more united, each person contributing toward a shared goal, making their little corner of the world better. Soham learned that while samosas were delicious, the real joy came from giving without expecting anything in return. It wasn't always about what was in it for him. Sometimes it was about what he could give to others. And that made all the difference. As for Mr. Banerjee, he continued organizing his drives, content knowing that another soul had discovered the true joy of selflessness. And maybe, at the next community event, you'll see Soham too. Not for the snacks, but for the happiness of making a difference, one act at a time. The joy of giving is not in what you receive, but in the happiness it brings to others.